Number 10. Vectrex. Vectrex is kind of a fun puzzle game. It's basically about keeping as much water as possible on the board, as long as you can. You do this by building walls, and turn by turn, it'll be a block that increases or makes more walls, decreases walls, explosives, which will blow up a hole in the floor, or there will be water, which you obviously need to fill up with. Um, Also, if you have too much rocks or basically walls on the dam, or just pools or whatever, the game called it lake, so if you have too many walls, there will be an earthquake, and then you will quickly lose points. It's basically a survival thing. I have this low on the list mainly because, well, there is no other modes besides multiplayer mode and normal mode. Number 9. Bomberman Hero. Bomberman Hero is, as far as I know, the only 3D platformer Bomberman game. There was other Bomberman games on Nintendo 64 though, such as Bomberman 64 and Bomberman 64 2. 642? I've only played Bomberman Hero, which is kind of sad because, as far as I see, Bomberman 64 looks better. It has a far better soundtrack. But then again, we're not talking about a game that I don't even have on the list. We're talking about this one. The game is very polygonish, like most of the other games, 3D platform games were around the N64 era. You walk around, you try to collect stuff, and you get better rankings. I've never actually cared to try to get every rank, so I don't know if you actually get something unlockable out of it. Probably do. I just don't feel like it, I guess. Number 8. Kirby 64. For some reason, first time I played Kirby 64, it really didn't appeal to me at all. I'm not sure what it is about it. I think it was the combining powers thing, which is kind of ironic because that's the main reason why I love it nowadays. I can know why I hated it originally, probably because I'm an idiot. It's not a 3D Kirby game, it's one of 2.5D games. This game reminds me of Klonoa for some reason. Or for some reason, I know exactly the reason. It reminds me of Klonoa. I'm not gonna explain why, because I suck at explaining things, as you can all know by now, but yeah. Kirby 64 also has a pretty nice soundtrack that I like. Like most Kirby games, this Kirby game has its very dark moment, such as post-apocalyptic Earth and Zero 2, but most people don't even know what Zero 2 is. I don't know the name of what it is, but it's so kind of horrifying when I actually know this story. He eats babies, or children, or whatever. That's why he looks like an angel. Number 7. Star Fox 64. Most people would most likely expect to have this game even higher on their list. Similar to Kirby 64, this game originally never appealed to me for some reason. Nowadays it does, however. Technically, this can be considered a remake of the first Star Fox game because it's basically just the same story told over again. At the same time, it cannot be considered one because of how vastly different it is besides the story, but then again, we have remakes that has been vastly different from the original, such as Silent Hill on the Wii, which was mixed, but I'm not going to talk about that now. Star Fox 64, it's a shmup game, or a rail shooter. I'm not even sure which category is right to put it in, it's both. If you haven't played this game, get it 3DS version, which ironically is coming out in 9/11. Number 6. GoldenEye. Again, most people probably have this game higher on the list because it revolutionized FPSs on consoles. Controls are kind of wonky in my opinion. Similar to Bomberman Hero, there are other games that are similar to this that I actually think looks better, such as Perfect Dark, but again, I haven't played Perfect Dark, which is why it isn't on the list. I really need to play more games before I make this list, now don't I? If you don't know what GoldenEye is, it's a James Bond game based on the movie, which had a sequel on the Wii, which was kind of good. I just didn't like the auto-aim system on the Wii game. But we're talking about this game now. Like I said, it revolutionized FPSs on consoles. Still don't see how they do that. Pretty fun game though, and I think it's a multiplayer that was a selling point. Um, Basically, if you had Nintendo 64 and were over 12-year-old, you would most likely have this game. Because apparently revolutionary between means really high sales. Number 5, Super Smash Brothers. Super Smash Brothers, another one of those great multiplayer games at Nintendo 64. Nintendo 64 had a lot of those. Hell, the console itself came with 4 controller ports, so you actually could play it like this. Obviously, Super Smash Bros. Is a fighting game, and it's a pretty unique fighting game because it isn't about lowering your enemy's health bar, it's about knocking them off the stage. Then again, if you don't know this, you do not know what Nintendo is, most likely. I was like using Link for some reason, probably because of my Zelda buff. And this game actually reminds me a lot about Kirby 64. For some reason. No, not Kirby 64, just Kirby games in general, actually. Just how parts of the game is just set up. It's kind of hard to explain. And try playing Super Smash Bros. Brawl, then you will really see what I'm talking about, but that's for another time. Number 4, Diddy Kong Racing. Diddy Kong Racing is probably my favorite racing game of all time. I was considering putting Super Mario Kart 64. It's not Super Mario Kart 64. There's only one Mario Kart game that's called Super Mario Kart, and that's the first one. I was considering putting Mario Kart 64, but I'd really just like Diddy Kong Racing better in every means of the imagination. The courses are better. This game actually has a campaign of sorts. I'm not even sure if I could call it campaign. Unlockable characters. There's just so many things to do in this game. And again, this is one of those games that's really fun to actually play with friends. I actually have a neighbor that I actually used to visit a lot purely to play this game. So yeah, I was kind of a constructive asshole back then. Or constructive? Poor choice of words, and again, then that's what I'm known for. Number 3, Paper Mario. This placement of this game is kind of wonky because, honestly, I like Super Mario 64 better than Paper Mario, but because the game after this one is so similar in playstyle, I decided that might as well just give Paper Mario some attention, because hell, it's actually one of the 3 only RPGs for the Nintendo 64 as far as I'm concerned. It was that, Quest 64, and some other games I also think was a strategy game, not Oracle Battle 64. Like I said, Paper Mario was an RPG, and I like this game aeons better than Super Mario RPG for some reason, or for some reason. I actually have a lot of reasons, but most of the reason why I don't like Super Mario RPG so much is actually because of the isometric view, but that's kind of a thing to cry over. Combat overall is better in this game. I don't like the fact that your AI character, not AI characters, but just your helping characters has health, but rather that they have turns, or when they get damaged, they actually lose them on the turns. It's a pretty fun game though, really much, very much things to find. Yes, grammar good. Number 2, Banjo-Kazooie. Again, like Bomberman Hero and GoldenEye, the sequel looks better, or GoldenEye, Perfect Dark was a sequel to GoldenEye, but anyways. Banjo-Tooie looks better, but I haven't really played it. Then again, Banjo-Kazooie is so great in itself, and like I said, I haven't played Banjo-Tooie, I might as well just have this on number 2. Like I said earlier, Banjo-Kazooie is very similar to Mario 64. Technically I didn't say that, now I'm just putting words in my own mouth. Very similar, and I just think that Banjo-Kazooie is better in that regard. This is one of those 3D platform games that was about collecting everything you see around you. Not like, or actually kind of similar to Bomberman Hero. Bomberman Hero really didn't have as much to actually collect that, then Bomberman Hero was independent stages. Then again, so was Super Mario 64 in this game to an extent. At number 1, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I sort of didn't want to have this game on the list, mainly because of how much people cry if you don't have it on the list. But I can't lie, this is my favorite game of all time, and because of that, my favorite Nintendo 64 game of all time. I really can't actually explain properly why I actually like this game so much. I actually think, ironically, it's because I really can't pinpoint anything that I can consider my favorite part of the game. The game really doesn't have any downtime at all. Because of it, it doesn't have any moments that stands up. It's a smooth experience overall. Again, if you haven't played this game, you should play the 3DS game or the 3DS remake, which the 3D in that game puts every other Nintendo 3DS game to shame. So again, we're now talking about the Nintendo 64 version. I always liked stuff to collect in Zelda games, such as the Golden Skulltulas, which you have in this one, and then you of course have the heart containers. And then have the side quests to go well parallel to the main story. If I actually had to choose one thing I really liked about just the series in general, and especially this game, is really just your dungeon design. Every dungeon is just absolutely great to play through. And before anyone starts crying over the water temple, it is good that it's hard. It gives you a legitimate challenge. This list was based on my personal opinion. Just cry about it if you don't enjoy it, and you will be banned.